I'm no lawyer, but my general understanding is you don't tell a judge you're going to appeal before you read the ruling. First up, though, is the big news out of Florida. The federal court judge down there, Judge Cannon, has appointed a special master officially, Judge Deary out of New York, to examine the documents taken by Joe Biden's Department of Justice and FBI in its unprecedented abusive raid of President Trump's home. Now, to take a step back, Judicial Watch has been sensitive about this issue because, believe it or not, we took the position this Justice Department currently is taken when it came to President Clinton's records. He had records in his sock drawer, specifically tapes of conversations that someone had recorded of him conducting his presidency, including talking to foreign leaders, which is presumptively classified. And we thought, well, doesn't the Presidential Records Act apply to that? Well, we went to court and the court told us no. The Justice Department told us specifically, look, if the president has records after he leaves the White House, presumably they're personal. And that was the position of the Justice Department. The court affirmed that position. And they said, more generally, the National Archives has no business second guessing the president's decision-making in that regard. But along comes Trump and they change their mind, they change their position, they ignore the law, they ignore the Constitution, they ignore the precedent, and they ignore what the Justice Department had specifically told another judge, that records in the custody of a president after he leaves office presumably are personal because they weren't turned over to archives. Yet they went in and took those documents, pretending that they were government records, pretending they were classified, because if they're personal, it means they're unclassified. And President Trump objected on a number of reasons. He wasn't as direct as Judicial Watch was in suggesting all these records are personal, they had no right to go in there, but he's raised these issues both directly and indirectly in a way that's caused concern from the court. And the court has repeatedly brushed back the Biden administration's assertion that there should be no special master, which is an independent authority appointed by the judge, to examine these records as to whether they should have been taken by the FBI, meaning that they were covered by attorney-client privilege or otherwise personal, or maybe aren't even classified, as we're suggesting. And the Justice Department under Biden was horrified, and they were bullying the judge. They said to the judge last week, essentially, if you don't rule the way we want you to rule, doesn't matter how you justify it because we're asking for a stay here. If you don't grant it to us, we're going to appeal. Now, I don't know, I'm no lawyer, but my general understanding is you don't tell a judge you're going to appeal before you read the ruling. And the judge's ruling was issued last night. And she basically told the Bush Justice Department and the Bush FBI, the Biden, how quickly we forget, the Biden Justice Department and the Biden FBI, that I don't trust anything you're saying. I don't trust you on these records. I don't trust you on your protestations that if we don't investigate this as quickly as possible, there's the possibility of leaks. You know what the judge said? Well, the only leaks that have taken place have happened since the raid. Basically saying, you're the one leaking. So stop pretending that this is an issue. And they don't want anyone looking at the fact that these quote classified records. And the judge says, well, you're saying they're classified, but I don't necessarily believe that. And so we're going to take a look, because if they're not classified, if they're quote not government records, they're all his personal records, President Trump's. So this was a big victory for President Trump. It was another takedown of the Biden Justice Department and FBI by a federal court judge. The judge essentially told the Justice Department, as I said, I don't believe anything you're saying. I'm granting a special master. I'm appointing a special master. Now, in this case, the special master was agreed to by the names. There were 4 names suggested. There were 2 names suggested by the Biden operation and 2 names suggested by President Trump's team. And President Trump's team included a lawyer out of Florida and a retired or semi-retired judge out of New York, Judge Deary. And the Justice Department said they didn't have any problems with a former federal judge like, or a retired, semi-retired federal judge like Judge Deary. So that is the person who was appointed, Judge Deary out of New York. Now, the only controversy with Judge Deary is he signed on to one of the infamous FISA warrants spying on Trump. So he was misled on the Trump warrant, but on the other hand, he didn't hold a hearing on that. It wasn't necessarily a Trump warrant, it was for Carter Page, but it was directed at a spy operation targeting Trump. It was a forced spy operation, obviously targeting Trump, but he didn't hold a hearing on it. So anyway, I guess the Trump team trusts him, the government trusts him, and so the judge trusts him. So we'll see how he handles this special counsel, this special master job that has been appointed to by Judge Cannon. Now, the other question is, and I don't think it's been answered yet, as best I can tell, is the Justice Department really going to appeal Judge Cannon's ruling? And are they going to go to what is the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals? And I don't know how that will run in terms of being for or against the Justice Department, but to me, they've kind of taken this arrogant point of view that they can't be second guessed by the judiciary. And the Justice Department should be deferred to by the judges, and the Justice Department should run the judiciary, especially with regard to this unprecedented act of abuse by the Biden operation. Now, taking a further step back, we have to recognize this is all part of a crisis as it relates to the rule of law caused by outrageous abuse by the Justice Department under Biden and the FBI under Biden. And as I've been talking about, you had President Biden's red speech where he essentially said that anyone who disagrees with him and or supports President Trump as an outlaw, basically putting a target on the backs of tens of millions of Americans. So concurrent with that, you have his operation raiding the home of the former president and putative candidate against him in his reelection effort. And then subsequent to that, you had dozens of subpoenas issued by the Biden Justice Department and the FBI out of a grand jury in DC, targeting people who dared to dispute the 2020 election. Now, their new theory is that if you were thinking about pursuing alternative electors because you had concerns about the electors appointed under the process in the 2020 elections, or the results of the 2020 elections has, officially put out there, that you were a criminal. That's their theory. It was a crime. So it's a vicious attack on the First Amendment. Your right to petition your government, your right to pursue redress under the law, under the Constitution, federal and state law. So I've talked about the Biden administration hurtling towards despotism. That's what we see here. And so it's up to, in some ways, obviously, there are many checks and balances when you have abuses of power like that in our Republican system, and hopefully they work here. And in this case, you have a judge saying, hold on a second here. We've had this unprecedented raid on the president's home, and this isn't going to be just another day at the office for the Justice Department. No, there's going to be accountability and transparency, and it's accountability and transparency the Justice Department and the FBI aren't used to.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.